Hey, it is me, Ginger. I got a lot on my mind today, so like somebody with ADHD always does when they have a lot on their mind, they do something procrastinate, like making a video. It's going to be a very short one, but I was on LinkedIn yesterday and I saw a post by Ankur Warikoo. I hope I said his name right. He is one of the founders of Nearby.com. He's a mentor, an angel investor, and public speaker. He says, based, I believe, in Delhi. Very smart guy. And he wrote a post about how he gets through reading so many books every year. Ankur reads 30 to 40 books every year. And remember, this is a guy who founded a company and does all these other things. So he's a super busy, super successful guy, yet he finds the time to read 30 to 40 books every year, which is really impressive. It's impressive, but I'll tell you what, it is one of the things I've noticed about every single successful person I know. They read a ton of books. It's like there are certain habits, like getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning or exercising every day, that every single successful person I've ever met does. They commit to it. So I think that's really interesting. And I remember, I think it's Brian Tracy who wrote Eat the Frog and No Excuses, who said you should always invest 3% of your income back into yourself in terms of education. And I've certainly found books give an amazing return on investment that way. I love buying books off Amazon using the Kindle Unlimited program because you get them for free, so to speak. You pay however much per month, but I mean that gives you the opportunity to read a ton of books for not much money, and it's nice for the author as well. I get the majority of my writing income from Kindle Unlimited, so I think it's a great program if you're in the right genre. Anyway, I digress. But Ankur's post was really interesting because he spoke about how he goes through the process of reading all these books, and there's one takeaway in particular that I wanted to make this video about. So he says, for the past 4 years I've managed to read 40 to 45 books in a year. After a lot of trial and error, I think I've arrived at a way of reading books that works for me. And it all starts with a routine. And he goes on about, his routine is he reads first thing in the morning, which is great. That's not necessarily the best for everyone. Everyone finds their own thing. That's fine. One of the things that I found really interesting, though, was he said, while reading, I skim a lot. I do not read every line, nor try and memorize every character if I'm reading an autobiography or a biography. Since I read only non-fiction, I can afford to do so. It also helps me speed up my reading. That's really interesting, and I think that is great advice. When I read non-fiction books, specifically non-fiction books about something that is an area I'm interested in, I find it really frustrating when you have to go through the first 3 pages which tell you stuff you already know, or just waffle or things like that. And it's kind of nice to read something from somebody who's successful and reads a ton of books, giving you permission to do that. And I think it's something authors should be aware of when they write books, that the length of the book is less important than what's in it. It's something that I think I think that's one of the things that is going to become a staple moving forward of important information, that you have to make it concise. Anyway, the next thing that Ankur writes is, this means I do not finish most books I start. This was a big shift from before, when I used to feel guilty leaving a book unfinished. Some 5 years back, I heard at Naval, so I think Naval is one of his colleagues, and his approach towards books, so I changed mine too. That's interesting as well. And this next line is the one that inspired me to make this video. He says, a book has to earn your attention and interest, not the other way around. A book has to earn your interest, your attention and interest, not the other way around. Well, isn't that the smartest thing I have ever heard? Yes, Ankur is absolutely right. And as an author, you need to take that to heart. Because I've worked with a bunch of authors, and I've been an author for a long time, and I've certainly been in this situation that I find a lot of authors are, where there's almost like this expectation that you are entitled to have people read your book, and that's not the case. As Tim Ferriss says, attention is the new currency, and reading a book takes a lot of attention. I went out to dinner with my new friends David and Danielle hi, if they're watching this, the other day, and Danielle was telling me about one of my books that she'd read, and I was blown away by the fact that I was sitting there with somebody who had read one of my books and absorbed it and taken an interest in it and had questions for me, and it made me feel so good. And I mean, a lot of people have read my books. Through Amazon and Kindle Unlimited, I've sold like 380,000 copies of my books. But I'm still grateful for every single person who reads my books, because that particular book I dedicated months writing, and it really, really means something to me. And it's amazing as an author to sit down and talk about this with somebody who's read it and absorbed it. And yeah, this is the thing. I mean, yes, it's great to make a living writing books and to be able to make an income writing books. That's fantastic. But as an author, it's just as important, perhaps more important, that people read your books. I don't know. Even now, even when I reached a certain level of success, I am still humbled when somebody chooses to read my book. And that's something, as an author, you should never, ever forget. As I said, there are lots of authors who, they finish a book and they poured their heart and soul into it, and they're like, okay, I'm going to put it out there, and they think it's like the Field of Dreams, that if you build it, they will come, and it's not. If you want to be successful as an author, you have to have a book that makes people want to pick it up and read it. Whether that's having something really compelling about it, or having established yourself as an author, or, Ankur reads a lot of non-fiction books, and when I buy non-fiction books, normally it's to achieve one particular thing, like I'll buy a book on advertising, or I'll buy a book on car repair, or I'll buy a book on something, because that's something I want to learn. So everyone has a reason for buying a book, and you've got to remember that. And also, you've got to do exactly what it says. Your book, you as an author, are responsible for engaging and keeping the attention and interest of the reader. If your reader gets bored reading your book, that's your fault as an author. And it's something I'm going through right now. I'm editing the next book in my romance series, and it's really, really long. It's about 150,000 words, and I'm like, I'm going to have to just cut it to shreds. Like maybe 1 word out of 3 I'm going to have to lose, which is amazing. I mean, Stephen King says, kill your darlings. But you have to. You like rip out huge swathes of subplot and characterization that isn't relevant to it. You want to keep it really, really tight. And that's difficult, but it's vitally, vitally important. So you have to remember that. No one is obligated to read your book. You have to give people a reason to read it. So that means you have to make sure not only that it's on brand for whatever genre it is you publish, that everything with it is as tight as possible. You also have to have some compelling reason for somebody to pick it up, and you have to write it and edit it and squeeze it all in there so it is an addictive drug as you're reading it, and you have to keep going. It's not easy, but that is one of the most essential things, and that mindset of being grateful and appreciative and humbled by every single person who reads your book, that is a vital mindset to have. Anyway, that's all I want to say. I'll put a link down to Ankur Warikoo's LinkedIn profile there, so you can go and see more of his wisdom, and I will be back with another video soon. Cheerio.